Welcome to the deep dive. We spend a lot of time on this show looking at really sweeping historical narratives
Right.
or, dense scientific papers
Yeah.
or these sprawling investigative reports. But the source material we are diving into today is, it's entirely different. We are looking at just a single Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
And not just any page. It is literally titled List of Mayors of Newtown.
Which, I mean, on the surface sounds like a complete cure for insomnia.
It really does.
If you were to pull up this page right now,
Yeah.
your first impression would be that it's just this stark black and white table.
Yeah.
A chronological ledger of municipal leaders for a place called Newtown in New South Wales, spanning from 1863 to 1948.
Basically a spreadsheet.
Exactly. It looks
Yeah.
like the driest spreadsheet imaginable. You've got columns for years, columns for names, and a little column on the side for notes.
But that is actually the perfect setup for our mission today. Because when you know how to actually read a data set like this, when you start looking at the anomalies, the sudden shifts in formatting, and most importantly, when you click on those tiny superscript citation numbers at the very bottom of the page.
Oh, the footnotes.
Yes, the footnotes. When you do that, that dry spreadsheet completely shatters.
It really does.
It transforms into this dramatic, chaotic, and genuinely groundbreaking map of human behavior.
It is a phenomenal exercise in reading between the lines. We're going to track the patterns today and dig into those archival citations to pull out the history that is basically buried underneath what looks like, basic bureaucratic record keeping.
Okay, let's unpack this. If we go to the very top of the table, the very first data point is from 1863.
Right.
February 17th, 1863 to be exact. But the person in charge, Frederick William Holland, he doesn't actually have the title of mayor.
No, he doesn't.
The column header for these first few years is actually chairman. We see Holland, then Joseph Kingsbury, Henry Monroe, William Curtis, and James Conley. They are all listed as chairman up until early 1868.
What's fascinating here is what that specific shift in terminology implies about the realities of early local governance.
Mm-hmm.
Because the word chairman suggests a much more informal, almost committee-driven approach.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Think about the 1860s in Australia.
Yeah.
These early leaders were likely just trying to get the absolute bare-bones infrastructure of a municipality off the ground.
Like dirt roads.
Exactly. Dirt roads, basic sanitation, figuring out property lines. It requires a tremendous amount of resilience to chair a newly formed local body with very little precedent to lean on.
It feels like they were basically a startup council.
That's a great way to put it.
And you can see in the text that it wasn't until February 15th, 1868, which happens during Henry Monroe's second stint in leadership, that the column officially shifts.
Right.
He officially takes on the title of mayor.
And that is a distinct upgrade in status.
Yeah.
Suddenly, Newtown isn't just an ad hoc committee anymore. It's a formalized municipality with a mayor. Yeah. And the citations from this early era really reflect that sort of buttoned-up foundational period. The source notes for those early years rely heavily on the New South Wales Government Gazette and very brief formal notes in the Sydney Morning Herald.
Very official, very polite.
Exactly.
But the formal buttoned-up era does not last.
Not at all.
As we track the list into the late 19th century, the source text starts dropping some serious hints about the human drama playing out in these council chambers.
Oh, definitely.
Let's look at 1896.
Okay.
The mayor is James Smith. Now, if you scroll down to the citations and look at a publication called The Australian Star from September 17th, 1896, the headline used in the reference is just incredible.
It is so...
It literally reads, Newtown Council, a deadlock. The mayor leaves the chair.
That single line completely destroys the illusion of boring local government.
Really?
You can instantly picture the scene, the gridlock in the room, the arguments echoing off the walls, the factions completely refusing to budge.
Yeah.
The frustration reaches such a boiling point that the mayor doesn't just adjourn the meeting. He physically abandons his post. He just leaves the chair.
He just walks out. And the timeline of how they resolve it is just as revealing as the walkout itself.
Right.
The very next citation in the text, which is also from the Australian Star, is dated September 23rd.
Almost a week later.
Right. And the headline is, Newtown Municipal Council, Alderman J.F. Smith, re-elected mayor.
Wow.
They had this massive theatrical walkout on the 17th, and it takes them almost a full week of behind-the-scenes wrangling to resolve the gridlock, only to put the exact same guy right back in the chair.
It highlights how intensely personal and volatile this arena was, because the data shows the same names popping up repeatedly during this era. William Rigg, for example, is noted as serving multiple, non-consecutive terms stretching from 1892 all the way to 1913.
Yeah, you see his name constantly.
Harold Thomas Morgan serves terms in the 1890s, the 1900s, and the 1910s. This is a tight-knit, highly competitive ecosystem where grudges and alliances are constantly shifting.
And that volatility really seems to set the stage for a massive visual shift that hits the data set a few decades later.
Yes.
If you're scrolling down this list, everything looks fairly uniform for a long time. It's just a column of names. But then you hit December 1925.
Right.
The newly elected mayor is Isidore Edwin Ryan. And right next to his name, an acronym suddenly appears in parentheses.
ALP.
Yes, ALP.
Which stands for the Australian Labor Party.
Right.
And from an analytical perspective, this is a massive turning point in the source material. Starting with Isidore Edwin Ryan in 1925, almost every single mayor listed for the next 2 decades carries that exact same ALP designation.
Yeah, completely takes over.
Joseph Solomon in 1928, Reuben Sidney Guittard in 1929, Joseph Vincent Bugler in 1930. The acronym essentially dominates the column.
Now, I want to be very clear for everyone listening. We are tracking this purely because it is a distinct, verifiable data point in the text.
Exactly.
We must remain strictly impartial here. We are simply tracking the historical data points provided in the source material. We aren't endorsing any political viewpoint left or right.
Right. We are just reading the map.
Exactly. The table explicitly changes format to include this acronym. It marks a very clear moment where the historical record shifts from listing independent local figures to highlighting national party affiliations.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the sudden, consistent appearance of a major national party acronym in a local municipal list tells us a lot about how society was organizing itself at the time. Before 1925, these were ostensibly independent local businessmen or community leaders fighting it out. The introduction of the ALP designation marks the era where local council lists began to be absorbed into the broader, highly organized political machinery that was sweeping the country.
Yeah.
Local politics was becoming a proxy for larger ideological organization.
And the citations from this period prove that this transition was not a quiet one.
Not at all.
Let's look at 1928. William Henry Delve is mayor, and then Joseph Solomon takes over in December. The citation for this moment from the Evening News on December 12, 1928, features a headline that is just 2 words long.
And it tells you everything you need to know.
It really does. The headline is, Newtown Uproar.
You don't get the word uproar in a newspaper headline unless the council meeting has completely devolved.
Right.
It suggests a fiercely contested, loud, and deeply divided environment. The shifting names, the new party acronyms, the dramatic headlines, it all points to a municipality experiencing serious growing pains as the political stakes get higher.
Which makes the next major data point in this list so remarkable. Here's where it gets really interesting.
Now, this is my favorite part.
If you keep moving down the timeline past the uproars and the entrenched party politics of the 1920s and early 30s, you hit December 1938.
Yes.
The new mayor is Lillian Fowler.
Serving from December 1938 to December 1939. And the text at the very top of the Wikipedia page in the introductory notes makes sure to highlight her significance.
It does.
She is documented as the first female mayor in Australia.
Think about that. Imagine looking back through that entire list. Decades of Fredericks, Williams, Josephs, and Jameses, stretching all the way back to 1863.
Just a wall of men's names.
A total wall of men. And then, right before the 1940s, Lillian Fowler's name appears.
It's incredible.
And the text also notes she didn't just stop at local government. She later became a member of the Legislative Assembly, an MLA for Newtown, from 1944 to 1950.
The magnitude of that milestone is incredible, especially when you consider the context we just established.
Right.
She didn't just break a glass ceiling in a quiet, polite, bureaucratic office. She walked into a political arena that the citations have already proven was prone to gridlock, walkouts, and literal uproars.
Yeah, a total Shark Tank.
Exactly. To navigate that specific room, to build enough consensus to take the mayoral chair, and to use that momentum to reach the state level speaks to an extraordinary level of political skill and resilience.
It is a perfect example of why data is never just data. Behind that single line in a table is a massive shift in Australian political history.
Absolutely.
But as serious and groundbreaking as Lillian Fowler's term was, The source material also reveals that the Newtown Council had an undeniably eccentric side.
They really did.
In fact, the citations reveal a pattern for breaking political stalemates that is genuinely hard to believe.
You were talking about the fact that they repeatedly resorted to drawing names from a hat.
I am. We already established they were prone to deadlocks back in 1896 when the mayor stormed out.
Right.
But apparently, as the decades rolled on, they found a new, incredibly unorthodox way to solve a tied vote.
Yeah.
They didn't debate until someone flipped their vote. They didn't hold a runoff election.
Yeah.
They literally threw the names in a hat and pulled one out.
And this wasn't an isolated incident that happened once and was immediately outlawed. The footnotes provide undeniable evidence that this was a recurring, accepted democratic solution for this municipality.
The sheer volume of citations backing this up is wild.
It is.
Let's start in 1920. An evening news article from December 22nd has the headline, "Mayors in the Hat."
That establishes the precedent right there.
Then you move forward to 1925, an article from The Sun on December 16th. The headline is, "They drew for it."
So 5 years later, the council finds itself in the exact same impossible deadlock and uses the exact same bizarre solution.
But it doesn't stop in the 1920s. You jump all the way to the 1940s. A citation from the Sydney Morning Herald, December 6, 1944. The headline reads, "Mayoralty won on draw from hat."
This is right in the middle of the 20th century. Modern political parties are involved, and they are still using a hat.
And then the very next year, the Sydney Morning Herald, December 5th, 1945. Headline, "Draw from hat elects mayor."
They did it 2 years in a row.
2 years in a row. You can almost picture the local journalists just waiting outside the council chambers every December with their notepads, wondering if the hat was going to make an appearance.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
But when you really analyze that quirky pattern, it tells you something deeply revealing about the margins of local politics in Newtown.
How so?
Think about what has to happen for a council to resort to a game of chance. The factions must have been split perfectly down the middle.
Right.
It means the political divisions were so entrenched and the alliances were so rigid that absolutely no one was willing to compromise.
Oh, wow.
They would literally rather leave the leadership of their entire municipality to blind luck than concede a single inch to the opposing side.
Yeah.
It's hilarious on the surface, but it represents a profound failure of negotiation.
They were so stubborn that drawing a slip of paper from a hat became standard operating procedure.
Exactly.
It's fascinating, but as we move past this hat drawing era of the mid-1940s, we run into the final and perhaps biggest historical mystery in the text.
The list abruptly terminates.
Right. We have been tracking this continuous timeline of municipal history for over 80 years. Mayors serve one-year terms, sometimes two. The succession is clear. We get to December 1947, and Reuben Sidney Goddard is elected. Then, on July 27th, 1948, Ernest Gerard Wright takes over.
Okay.
And then nothing. On December 31st, 1948, the list just stops.
Just a wall.
There are no mayors listed for 1949, no names for 1950. The entire municipality just seemingly vanishes from the record.
To figure out why a municipality suddenly stops having mayors, we have to connect a few data points that are buried quite far apart in the source material. We actually have to look decades backward to understand the end of the timeline.
Let's trace it.
If you look back at the term of William Rigg in 1911, there is a specific citation from the Sun newspaper on February 15th of that year. The headline poses a question.
What is it?
Will they amalgamate?
Will they amalgamate? Meaning, will they merge or be absorbed by another local government body?
Exactly.
That rumor was already generating headlines 37 years before the list ends.
That question clearly hung over the council for decades. And if we jump all the way from that 1911 rumor to the very last citation on the page dated August 13th, 1948, we find a reference to the Government Gazette of the state of New South Wales.
Okay.
The text of the citation simply reads, Local Government Act, 1919 Proclamation. Furthermore, the overarching archival source for this entire list of aldermen is credited as the City of Sydney Archives.
So what does this all mean?
By synthesizing all those fragments, the persistent early rumors of amalgamation, the decisive government proclamation in the second half of 1948, and the fact that Newtown's municipal records now reside in the City of Sydney Archives, it paints a very clear picture.
Yeah.
The independent municipality of Newtown ceased to exist on the last day of 1948. It was absorbed into a larger municipal body, likely the City of Sydney, bringing an 85-year run of independent mayors to an abrupt end.
It's like reading the final sentence of a novel, but the sentence is just a dry legal citation.
That's a great comparison.
Which brings us back to the core reason we wanted to dive into this specific source material today. You might assume that an old Wikipedia list of mayors is just dead data.
Right.
But this list proves that a spreadsheet is never just a spreadsheet. It is a dense, coded map of human history. Behind these columns of dates and names, you have trailblazing women changing the landscape of Australian politics.
Yes.
You have massive political uproars, mayors storming out of council chambers, and a government so fiercely divided that they spent decades choosing their leaders by pulling a name out of a hat.
This raises an important question. It reminds us to look closely at the mundane records of the past. History isn't solely forged in massive, sweeping global events.
No, it's not.
It is built in these hyper-local, often chaotic moments. The bitter arguments in a small council chamber, the slow institutionalization of party politics, the hard-fought milestones of equal representation. These local realities eventually ripple out to shape the society we live in.
They absolutely do. And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We look back at Newtown in the 1920s and 40s, and we laugh at the idea that drawing a name from a hat was an accepted, legally documented way to solve a political crisis.
Right. It seems crazy.
It feels entirely absurd to us today, but it makes you wonder what unconventional, slightly ridiculous methods are we using in our own modern institutions right now?
Oh, that's a good point.
What bureaucratic workarounds or quirky unwritten rules are we employing today that historians 80 years from now will look back on with that exact same sense of amusement? Think about that the next time you find yourself sitting in a gridlocked meeting. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the archives. We will see you next time.